The concept of death has always been a mysterious and deeply philosophical topic, yet recent advancements in medical science are challenging our traditional understanding. The case of Joe Tiralosi, a man who survived a heart stoppage lasting 47 minutes, has brought attention to the fact that death is not a singular moment, but rather a prolonged process. For over 30 seconds after the heart stops beating, the brain typically ceases all activity due to lack of oxygen, and after about 10 minutes, irreversible brain damage is expected. However, in Joe's case, not only did his brain function persist for a prolonged period, but he was also revived 3 weeks later, fully recovered. This phenomenon challenges the traditional concept of death being an immediate event following the cessation of the heartbeat. According to Dr. Sam Parnia, a leading researcher in near-death experiences, NDEs, and resuscitation medicine, this case highlights that death is not an instantaneous occurrence, but a gradual process that can unfold over an extended period. His research into the processes occurring during cardiac arrest, particularly his AWARE study, provides compelling evidence that consciousness may persist beyond clinical death and that some patients are capable of recalling their experiences even when their hearts have stopped beating. The AWARE study, which surveyed 2,060 patients across hospitals in the UK, the US, and Australia, revealed a striking phenomenon. Many patients who survived heart attacks reported memories of experiences occurring during the time they were clinically dead. Some described out-of-body experiences in which they were able to perceive events happening around them while floating above their own bodies. One such account involved a patient who was able to accurately describe details of his resuscitation, including the presence of a bald doctor and the commands to shock the patient, which were later confirmed to be true by medical records. This is groundbreaking because it suggests that parts of the brain and consciousness remain active even after clinical death has been declared. In addition to these subjective reports, other scientific studies have shown that the brain may remain active longer than previously believed. Research at the University of Michigan, for instance, has found that brain activity increases dramatically following cardiac arrest, with what was described as a neural fireworks display. This surprising finding supports the idea that the dying brain is not as inactive as once assumed and could help explain the vivid experiences reported by patients during their near-death experiences. So, when exactly does death occur? If parts of the brain remain active for several minutes after the heart stops, it raises important questions about the precise moment when we can definitively say that someone has died. The standard medical view holds that brain function ceases within 20 to 30 seconds of a heart attack, but cases like Joe Tiralosi's suggest that there may be a critical window of time when the brain is still capable of functioning, allowing for successful resuscitation. This is especially true when certain factors, such as the cooling of the body, are employed during the resuscitation process. Cooling has been shown to slow down cell death, providing a crucial time buffer during which doctors can work to revive a patient. For example, in Joe's case, the medical team employed a technique of cooling his head with ice packs upon his arrival at the hospital. This slowed down the rate of brain cell decay, which ultimately played a significant role in his recovery. According to Dr. Parnia, cooling is one of the key techniques that allows for extended survival following cardiac arrest. It has been shown to increase survival rates by preserving brain function during the critical period immediately after a heart attack. As science advances, it is becoming clear that the boundaries between life and death are not as rigid as previously thought. New technologies and techniques in resuscitation are improving survival rates, even in cases where patients have been clinically dead for an extended period. The use of cooling techniques, combined with the growing understanding of how the brain functions during the dying process, is opening up new possibilities for treating patients who would have otherwise been lost. The question of when exactly a person is truly dead is still a subject of much debate. While traditional medical tests focus on whether brain activity has ceased, they do not necessarily detect whether brain cells are still viable. This has led some scientists, including Dr. Parnia, to conclude that we still do not fully understand the transition from reversible to irreversible death. However, Advances in resuscitation medicine suggest that we may soon have the ability to bring back patients who have been clinically dead for much longer periods, potentially even for hours. The implications of these findings are profound. In the near future, we may be able to revive people who have been dead for 12 or 24 hours, fundamentally changing our understanding of life and death. Cases like Joe Tiralosi's, where a patient survives after an extended period of cardiac arrest, could become more common. Dr. Parnia is optimistic about this potential. Call it resurrection if you like, but for me, it's the result of scientifically driven resuscitation medicine. As our knowledge of the dying process continues to expand, it is clear that we are just beginning to scratch the surface of understanding what happens when we die. The boundary between life and death is far more fluid than we once thought, and with every new discovery, we are inching closer to a future where death may not be the end, but simply another stage in the continuum of life.